giving that old Another World storyline from the 80s when Mac was being poisoned and Rachel had to save him. I assume that's what we're going to get with Dani. I've always felt that's the direction they're going to go, but it remains to be seen if we'll actually see St. Bart's. What is up, fellow Beyond the Gates viewers? Here to talk about today's Thursday episode of the show. Another overall low-key episode, although I will say that there was at least some storyline progress, in my opinion. We started today's episode with Bill and his weak hand as he was contemplating calling Madison, but Hayley said that their new rule is no screens until after lunch. Hayley wanted to know what is going on, and he talked about his hand tremor the other night and how it was the worst one yet, and how maybe he should call Madison, but Hayley says that reaching out to Madison will be one big fat waste of time, which you would think would be a weird red flag to Bill, because I get that Bill is stubborn, but your significant other being stubborn about your health seems like a red flag. But Bill always has to be dumb when it comes to Hayley. Hayley thinks that Bill should instead prep for his case against Mike for Madison's sake instead. Meanwhile, Chelsea and Naomi were meeting up. Chelsea wanted to talk about their dad, who she says is in a life or death situation with his health, and how they need to come up with a game plan to get Bill to the hospital to follow up with Madison, because he hasn't been answering Madison's calls or something, and they think Hayley could be to blame. So Chelsea and Naomi stopped by the house to see Bill and talk some sense into Bill about following up with Madison today, which went against what Hayley just said. Hayley didn't appreciate them barging in, and Naomi said that Chelsea said that Bill had been dodging Madison's calls. Naomi and Chelsea also threw Hayley's spa day back in her face yet again, which she made Bill defend her, saying Bill told her to do that, and Bill admitted that he insisted to Hayley to do that. Hayley thinks that they're just disrupting Bill and wants them to leave, and Bill, in dumbass Bill fashion, decided to basically take Hayley's side and wants Naomi and Chelsea to go, so they do. Hayley afterwards said that Bill's health is worse when he is stressed, and said that he was fine until the girls came along. Hayley thinks they need to get away from the stress, even though Bill has this big case with Madison that he's trying to work on, so it went against Hayley's advice prior in this episode. But Hayley wants them to go to St. Bart's so Bill could get away from the stress. Bill still wants to talk about the way that she treated his daughters earlier. That was their last scene in this episode, so we'll see what Bill has to say about that. But Bill agreeing to go to St. Bart's. Will we get to see St. Bart's this time? Last time they hyped up St. Bart's, we didn't get to see any of it, and they were making it seem like it was going to be an important part of the story. And it seems like it should be an important part of the story, because Hayley clearly wants to isolate Bill. And it is, once again, like it did prior this year when they were first hyping up St. Bart's and it went nowhere, giving that old Another World storyline from the 80s when Mac was being poisoned and Rachel had to save him. I assume that's what we're going to get with Dani. I've always felt that's the direction they're going to go, but it remains to be seen if we'll actually see St. Bart's. Ashley was in this episode texting Grayson while at work, and Shanice found her smiling. They had a conversation about Grayson, but I fast forwarded, so not recapping that. I give absolutely zero fucks about Ashley and Grayson and that whole relationship. Andre and Ted had a talk today about how Ted is focusing on his future and not his past. He wants to focus on Shanice. Ted has a plan for the woman he loves. You know, Ted and Shanice really loving to throw around the love word these days. Ted's big plan is a trip to New York for them to get away. During this conversation, Andre did get distracted thinking about that champagne that was sent to him. They wanted to remind us of that. I think this is when Ted was asking about a good champagne to get for Shanice. But that really went nowhere. Dani today walked in on Kial and Nicole while they were still in bed making out, Dani just said, oops, my bad. I thought this was a very awkward scene. I know this was in the preview for last week, and it was as awkward as I expected it to be because Dani was kind of acting like a creep about it. Nicole had to be the one to tell Dani to leave and wait, and I felt like Dani was acting immature in these scenes. I don't know. The show does like to write their adults as teens. Like a lot of the characters on this show act like teenagers, except the teens. It's very weird writing, I must say. Nicole finally went down to meet her downstairs, saying that Dani is an uninvited guest. Dani said she just came over because she thought Nicole was in danger, wasn't answering the phone. Dani then was teasing Nicole about Kyle, but Dani is happy for Nicole and that Nicole has found somebody else. They talked about how Nicole doesn't think she or Kyle will say the L word anytime soon, even though Dani is saying that Ted moved on and is doing that. And Dani just wants Nicole to be open to that possibility. Kyle came and interrupted and headed to work. At the hospital, Martin wanted to thank Kyle for helping Smitty the other day when he hurt himself playing pickleball or whatever they were doing. And his thank you was 2 tickets to a Nationals game, which if I was Kyle, I would be like, who wants to go see the Nationals? But, better than nothing. Ted did not like hearing Kyle talking about how he might be falling for Nicole. But according to Ted, he's so in love with Shanice now, and that is where he is moving on. He's moving on with Shanice, and they're just saying the L word to each other all day, every day, I guess. Because they, too, are kind of acting like teenagers. Before Martin ran into Kyle, he started this episode with Kat. He met his sister for brunch, and Martin wanted to know why her and Smitty's heads were together, what that was about at the party yesterday. Kat thinks that Martin should talk to Smitty first because she doesn't want to risk her position as a source. As we know, Kat is trying to help Smitty figure out this Lynette situation, which I would like to be figured out only if she's alive. Kat later found a frustrated Naomi and Chelsea upset about Hayley getting them kicked out of their father's place and how Hayley is playing games with Bill's health. What we did see in this episode was more of Hayley's bullshit over the year and a half finally coming out. And they are seeming like they are unraveling Hayley's plans. We actually are making some progress in this storyline that has been dragged out too long. Hopefully, this is a sign that we are actually reaching a climax in a storyline on this show, which I feel like we haven't reached a climax to a storyline on this show other than the Impaler, I guess. But that wasn't a long-term storyline. That was a few months storyline. The last time we had a long-term payoff was like the anniversary party last May. But anyway, Naomi says that the more they evaluate Hayley and the way she's dealing with Bill's health, it's sketchy, and Kat definitely agreed. And then Naomi finally told someone about how Hayley faked her ultrasound. Her excuse for not saying any of this sooner is that she didn't do it because she did buy Hayley's sob story about it. They think that Hayley is upset with Bill and Dani's connection and she's feeling threatened and being territorial and isolating him, which is bad for his health. They're half right. Obviously, Hayley does not give a shit about Bill and Dani. Dani is the one obsessed and being pathetic about Bill. But Hayley is trying to isolate Bill, so it could be good for Bill's life that they're onto that. Kat has this evidence app that she wants to put all the info about Hayley, but Naomi is saying they don't have enough concrete evidence that Hayley is like trying to hurt Bill. Then Chelsea talked about the fact that her and Madison one time saw Hayley arguing with Sammy in public. Dani happened to overhear this, so Dani also getting involved with this. Dani said that according to Vanessa, Sammy's real name is Randy, so even more info about this whole scheme starting to come out. So that is a good thing. Lots of info about Hayley was being, chattered about by other characters today. And then Dani ended our episode today being upset with the fact that Bill let Hayley throw the girls out. So Dani, I'm assuming, is going to go see Bill. Of course, Dani's going to go see Bill. But at least I do feel like this long awaited, this long stretched out Bill and Hayley storyline had more legs today and could be actually going somewhere. Hopefully, we really do get a climax in this storyline soon, because that's kind of the highlight of our week so far, in my opinion, with Beyond the Gates.